Hi, and welcome to Conscious Talk TV show. And this is Linda Summers, and I'm your host. And today we are interviewing Kelly Marie. And Kelly teaches people to heal their whole life. And so we're going to ask her what that means. But today's topic, well, before I even bring on Kelly, I want to bring Kelly on board. So, hey, Kelly, how
Hey,
are
Linda.
you?
I'm doing well, thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here. And I was just going to introduce the topic, and I thought I really want to bring you on board first because then we can kind of dive into this. And so the topic today is where we are now and why. And Kelly is going to give us tools as to what we can do, how we can move through this of what we're seeing in the world. Because right now, and Kelly and I were talking about this, right now what we're seeing is a lot of negativity, we're seeing a lot of separation, we're seeing a lot of division, we're seeing a lot of things that are happening, and frustration with the people in the world that's going on, and they're not sure why this is going on, but we do know that even though all this is happening, it is bringing people closer together. And so I thought this would be a really great topic to have on the show today. And Kelly's going to be joining us weekly because there's a lot to talk about. So there's a lot to bring forth. So I'm really excited. So I really, really, really appreciate you wanting to do this, Kelly, and come on board. So awesome.
Yes, it'll be fun. And yeah, there is a lot of fear out there, a lot of people having a difficult time coping with a lot of changes going on in the world from all directions, and they're having a hard time navigating with that. And so just kind of being aware of kind of why it's going on and how to to find yourself within all of that, to have it not pull you out of feeling good and actually being positive in your own life. It's kind of being aware of how to look at something from the outside and to not get kind of caught up into the chaos or somebody's opinions or arguing with somebody, because there's so many differences coming to the surface, a lot of conflict, it's kind of a lot of resistance in the sense that people are in judgment of each other and are having a hard time accepting others' extreme differences or different points of view, and that argument between I don't understand how they're getting that point of view or how they can be that way, that need to kind of argue your point a little bit. Right. And then you kind of get caught up into the energy of that. And it can be quite chaotic. And
which is what we're seeing. And the thing is, when you've got everybody, you've got the media and you've got people, I've seen a lot of posts, I've seen a lot of people just talking and really feeding into this energy because they're not really sure what to do with this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just focusing on what's wrong. So that is really what this conversation is about, is to actually not focus on what's wrong to the best of your ability, because you actually amplify what's wrong as you're focused on it. You can look at it in the perspective of, what is this bringing out of me? What does this mean to me personally? But to keep out of what's going on and kind of in your mind even focus on what you would like to see. Right. And so kind of have the higher perspective where you're creating that energy of everything is all right, everything is moving forward. Because really this is I'm sorry, not saying the word well.
Culmination, yeah.
Thank you, yes. Of a lot of asking for peace in people's lives, wanting to feel better, which calls forth, changes come up as a result of that. The resistance must come up, and we're seeing that in large doses in the world of the resistance that's standing in the way between having that real peaceful energy around a lot of other people. So, and that's kind of what happens in your life personally too, when you want to feel good, to kind of focus on the self and go within and start letting go of the resistance inside your own body on what's keeping me from being happy and doing your own self-work. You're seeing that kind of played out with a collective group on the planet now. So you're seeing that very microvision on you, but extremely in a macro perspective going on with all of the people on the planet. So it's good because it's moving us through a direction. Things have to shake up sometimes to be able to work out what we really prefer, and it creates the you know, it's that really interesting desire when something is going wrong. You'll get, you know, that's what drives you to want to change it. And so because of all of this contrast, it causes people to want to feel good more. So you can look at it as a good way, um, for your own navigating through it. But there's also, you know, it's a very good time to go with it and start doing your own work personally, and you see that relationship to, yes, there are things going on in the world, but I need to focus on feeling good. So I need to do my own work and get centered by, you know, breathing, you know, a real good technique to kind of withdraw, because when you're looking at stuff, your mind is working extra hard to make a perspective on it. You're trying to see, what does this mean to me? So you're kind of invested in thinking and adding energy to it. When it starts getting very stressful, is to just start breathing. It's one of the best ways to kind of withdraw from it. And so when you breathe in, you really focus on the breath, and you focus all the way up to the top of your head,
Right.
and really kind of slowly focus on the breath to the best of your ability, and then let it out very slowly and let it go down your body, and kind of focus on the breath coming all the way up and all the way down. And not only is it doing physical things for your body and allowing you to stay out of fear, you know, to kind of calm the body down, because the body is reacting to the emotion that you're having and kind of supporting you to be afraid. Your body is actually shutting down the brains, the filters of the brain, so you can only think about the fear. Then your hormones are sending out, oh, we're scared here, so send out some adrenaline to get you ready for this war that
Right.
you have been. So to soothe that, you know, the breathing works for that. But also what it's doing is it's stopping the mind from thinking so much. And so to quiet the mind to the best of your ability, go inside and just stop the momentum of focusing so much on what's wrong. And it's a good way to kind of calm yourself down and get you out of this state of reacting.
Right. So let's go back to and welcome everybody who's tuning in right now. We greatly appreciate having you on here. You know, so really with what's going on out in the world, what you're saying is that really what we've done is we've asked for this to happen. We've asked for because we really have. We said, you know, something has to change. We have to come together. We have to stop the separation. So what I hear you saying is that basically when we're saying that, the resistance is coming up. And so we're seeing the effects of that for us to be able to go through that to the next stage of being able to come together.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you ask for peace, you know, people are wanting to not see wars. And so in their minds, they're asking for peace. Well, when that happens, when you ask for something, the resistance to it must come up also before people actually feel the desire to move in that direction. So you'll see people, you know, real extremes, real contrasts going on as a result of now, because of this up close in your face,
Right.
how much you don't prefer this, to kind of make that next step to actually solve the problem, to get past that. So sometimes it gets worse before it gets better, but the resistance must come up so you know what you're releasing to actually get what you're asking for.
Right.
So which is the same thing which happens in yourself when you ask for something in your personal life. The resistance must come up to show you what's holding you back from achieving it.
Right.
So it's pretty much a duplication of what you do personally. It's
Right.
very cool.
Well, since we're part of the whole, it's really going to affect whatever is that we're putting out there anyway to the collective consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think for the listeners that are listening, I think it's really important, which it was really hard for me to grasp that when you said that, but it made a lot of sense that when we are asking for something, the collective consciousness is responding to that. So to how we view what's happening in the world with all the killings and the shootings and all that's happening, that we're seeing that we are a part of that. We are creating that. So in order to uncreate that, is what you're saying, is it really begins with us, as Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So it really begins with us and how we are in relationship to ourselves, which you and I talked about, of self-love. And that's where what you're teaching people is to heal themselves, to become whole in their life, right? So
Right.
that's really where it begins. And so until we can recognize that what's happening out in the world, and I think this is so important, and I love what you're saying, is because it has to come up. But I think to really help people shift their perspective and see that, wow, in the asking, this is what we're receiving. So if we look at what's happening, not look at it in a negative way, but look at it in a positive way, that this is for us to come together so we can go to the next step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the same thing that what goes through your life when you do focus on the unconditional love of the self. A lot of people misunderstand what that is. They have this idea of love, and they don't actually understand what the unconditional love aspect is. So really, quite quickly to cover it, and you can make it as complicated as you want or easy, but it's to get the resistance out of the way to be able to realize that what you're asking for. So when you're in a state of conditional love, in other words, we all are a natural vibration of unconditional love.
Yeah.
But you say that I need a car, or I need a job, or I need a career, or somebody, to love me, or I have to be a good person so people can praise me so I can feel good. That is the conditions that one needs to have before they'll feel good.
Right.
And so this is to learn how to feel good without the conditions, to actually fill yourself up with why you're doing certain things. In other words, why do you need to force your opinion on somebody else? And usually that need, that desire to do that is coming from the fact that you're not 100% sure what you want to think. In other words, you don't trust and believe completely what you think you understand. So you try to get others to believe it too. In other words, the validation from others.
Exactly.
Because there's a little bit missing within you. So it causes you to try to force your opinion on somebody else, or, that need to kind of explain yourself or justify yourself, or, I don't have enough money, so therefore, when I get money, then I'll feel good. But I'm imbalanced. I don't have enough. That it's not a whole perspective. It's not finding out where the imbalances are coming from, why there are holes in your life in the first place. So it's really that journey inward, that actually getting to know yourself without using the outside world as pointing your finger and saying it's their fault. It's my circumstance, it's this or it's that, or it's all these people with different opinions. We could be really happy if there wasn't those people. I would be really happy if everybody had more money. I would be more happy and I would be healthy if there wasn't these people, creating viruses or chemtrails or all of these excuses that we give ourselves to kind of excuse ourselves for not being happy, when it actually is about you and the fact that your life is kind of being focused from an external perspective. So when you start caring about yourself, learning who you are, learning how to not need the condition, but to learn how to be happy without needing something else to fill you up, that's when a lot of those other ideas can kind of fall away. And that is healing of one's whole life. So it's the same thing on a macro point of view as far as in the collective, because this asking for it, that's kind of what evolution is. It's that learning more about who you are over time and having life experiences showing you more and learning from it. But when you get caught up into blaming others, or this is a reason, and not realizing why you're needing to have certain things, you're missing all of the clues about who you are and the unfolding of what your life would bring you if it wasn't for that little bit of resistance standing in your way. So when you're seeing it on the collective, you can only go back like 100 years and realize that, as we were trying to work more together, there was a little bit of communication with other people. There were very segregated groups. And the ability to travel overseas, or the ability to talk to one another, wasn't as easy as it is right now. However, that slowly started changing. There was cars, there was phones. We started being able to communicate more. And people even then were still resistant to the others. They still would get into wars and battles. So this is an evolution over a long period of time to get used to accepting somebody else for who they are and not being threatened or feel in fear of somebody trying to convince you how to be. It's learning how to stand with who you are and not be threatened or intimidated by somebody else's differences. It's to really honor who you are, and they have the right to be who they are.
Absolutely.
I don't have to fight them.
Absolutely. But, so I feel there's a question in the audience that they're saying, okay, well, if I'm doing the work on myself, which we talked about, how you do the work on yourself does affect the collective consciousness. But, it's like when people say you create your own reality, and it's like, well, I wouldn't create this for myself. Are you kidding? Why would I want to create this kind of life for myself? So I feel that the listeners in the audience are probably saying the same thing. Some people could be saying the same thing. Well, I wouldn't want to create that, the chemtrails or any of the stuff that's the shootings, the killings, anything that's going on.
Well, it's actually recognizing that we kind of choose to be in a particular environment to let ideas occur to us. So we're surrounded by things to consider. But that's where, if you can look at it from what does that mean to me, you get to know yourself more by contrast sometimes. You get to learn why you want to feel good by experiencing that which you don't like or don't want to have in your life. So that's always teaching you and leading you in a direction to want more. So we're both positive and negative. We both have a counterbalance. Everybody does. So you don't deny the fact that there can be some very discomforting things, because those very uncomfortable things give you the best motivation and inspiration, because we learn out of necessity. Those are the things that cause us to be inspired to change things. So right. Sometimes it's very necessary to see the unwanted so you know more of what you prefer, and a reason to do it, and to be stimulated to know more because of how uncomfortable it gets. So it's exactly the thing that you would want to push you forward to want more, to know more about yourself and to know about what's going on. Because if everything was just perfect, everybody had enough, there would be no movement.
Yeah.
And even in your own personal life, when things are going all right, you're not really motivated to learn more about yourself. But
Very
only
true.
when you get so uncomfortable, that's when people are like, all right, I can't take this anymore. I give up. I'm trying to control everything. What do I have to learn to get myself out of this? And that's when really people start asking for help. It's because of what they went through that lets them learn more and get to more levels of themselves than they would have ever achieved by everything being good.
Absolutely.
So it works that way on in the world as well. So there's you doing you and learning who you are and trying to be a conduit of that unconditional love for yourself, letting energy flow within you, not pinching yourself off from it. And then that gets offered into the environment as well. So others have access to it just by you doing that work. So there is movement on so many levels. And as you learn to do that, others will watch what you're doing and ask how you've done it. And that's how a pollination or a change in a collective comes about. It's that collective asking for.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we talked a lot too about yesterday. We were talking about how history repeats itself, and so we're constantly repeating ourselves, going, through centuries and centuries. And so, how do we break that cycle? How do we, what I hear you saying is really beginning with ourselves. We are the ones that break the cycle. But how is it that you can get the masses to understand that we are the ones that have to break the cycle? It's not going to happen because it's been repeating itself for forever. And so do we want to continue on that road, or do we want to change things?
But it's never the same. And it is an evolution. Each time it comes back around these broad loops of things that come up. You're always inspired for more. So it's easier to do your own work than it is to shift a perspective on a collective. However, for one, don't focus on what's wrong. Actually see the movement that's coming, because a lot of people kind of worship the old days. Oh, it was always better then. But they weren't there, and it wasn't as good as you think it is. It's a very romanticized version, a very edited perception of what actually took place. They were not as comfortable. They were very limited in their lives. They weren't able to speak openly. We can do that now, and that's a result of that. So movement has changed, and what they're idolizing is it's not so in our face. However, we're ready for that now. That's why we have the internet, and that's why there's so much global communication to kind of force the circumstances to where that can shake itself into the proper perspective, and we can be more open to other people's perception because we're so close to them now. We have access to them. We can talk to them and see, that they're not so different from us. Whereas before, these people, they'd see some tribal people and they would lose themselves completely. They would be in fear, and fear and any kind of lower energy creates a lot of imbalance in the body. So people would get sick, and the lives were shorter back then. We weren't healthier than we are now. Right. Now is the healthiest we've been in quite some time. So it's always moving forward. And here's the thing, is to not be focused on what's wrong. If you could get rid of saying there's something wrong, and I actually recognize that, wow, this is a real life on time shift going on right in front of my face. And because of all of this volatile stuff, movement is happening and people are wanting to feel good. Yeah. So there's a concerted effort. There's evidence of that people are saying, you know what, we have to change. And that's what happens in a big, broad group, which is very cool, for yourself. And you get to look upon that and see, wow, if they can do it, if people can change through this, there is hope. And you have to have that awareness that, you got to get rid of the resistance. It will work out. But if people get nervous about it, oh, we're in end times, everything's falling apart, right, they start focusing on that, they're actually enlivening that energy and possibility in their own life. So they're actually calling it forward, which is the opposite of what they'd like. So the more you see it working out, sending, kind of create in your mind what you want to see. Spend time in the imagination with everything is working out. And I'm seeing huge shifts. And, oh, I get to do more work on myself. I want to feel better too. We're done kind of feeling like victims. We can do what we need to learn. We've given our hopes and trust into doctors and clergy and scientists and political figures, and we all feel very disappointed in that. However, we were the ones who handed over that trust and faith, right, saying, you do it, I don't have time for that, or I'm not educated enough. Yeah. Well, it's kind of time for us to learn how things actually work, the physics of your own life, how things come about, how I can heal myself without needing all of that. And knowing that I don't have to get angry at them because I'm very happy that we are here. They know a lot of stuff, but they don't have all of the answers. I need to learn more for me to feel good. And so I'm not so reliant on them. And when I can feel better, then I don't feel like I'm so volatile. I don't feel like I'm at their service or vulnerable to work. They have all of the power to take my life away from me. Right. It's when you really learn who you are and what you can do and what you can actually learn about, and how you can grow your own food, how you can choose nutrition that's good for you instead of relying on all of these little surveys that are going to say, yes, this is good. No, it's not. Okay, it's good again. No, it's not.
Like a yo-yo.
Yeah, people are really scared and confused, rightly so, because there's all of this, whoever you listen to, they're going to say something else. And people are kind of like, how do I function within all of that? I don't know what to think. So it becomes very confusing. So then go back to the basics. Let it be simple. Just do what you can to feel good. Balance yourself out. And then, when you get really connected to your inner self, the information will be there. So you have something to say about this. And when I say you, I'm talking about your inner self. You can connect up to that information very much like animals do. Yeah. We've lost that connection because we've relied on others to do that for us. But to realize that you do have that ability to reconnect to that and be inspired to what's right for you. Start looking at the signals in the body to realize that when I'm in fear, my body is shutting down and I've got the emotions to tell me. And those are red flags saying something's out of balance here. If you're feeling afraid or angry or scared or lonely, something's out of alignment. So is to start navigating the body a little bit differently. So learning how to learn that you have more information than you're aware of, only because you haven't been taught to use it. But your whole body is always on your side, trying to support you and to make you feel better and to feel whole. Because people in a well-being state should feel excited, happy, and feel loved.
Yeah.
If you don't feel that, something is wrong. There's resistance. There's something in your energy standing out of the way, some insistent perspective that you're holding on to, or something is standing in your way from doing that. And when it becomes chronic enough, physical health issues can come of that. So chronic thinking does lead to physical discomfort. But, and there's a lot of reasons why those discomforts is, but never one cookie cutter answer. Each person is so individual.
Right.
You know, sometimes we're doing that to learn something. Sometimes we're doing it because of habitual thinking. You know, it's learning how to navigate yourself. So that's what we want to bring forward, is the tools to help you identify, oh, you know, I've got this perspective that I'm insisting on, and maybe if I just kind of soften that a little bit, I would feel better. And I didn't realize that I was so reliant on other
Okay,
people.
well, thank you guys for coming back. I apologize. We do only have 40 minutes, and so you know, you just get so involved in the conversation that you don't see about the time. So we're just going to continue on. So hopefully Genesis will come back on as well, and because I put a thing on Facebook. So let's just keep rolling with this, Kelly, and I'm just hopefully we won't get cut off and we can end the show in a proper way, but it's all good. So
Absolutely. So
yeah.
I think we were talking about just the tools for oneself to kind of go within and to kind of look at, you know, what's standing in the way of you feeling good. And it's kind of looking at the navigational tools that your body is already telling you. So it's just kind of a new perspective that we haven't learned, a brand new way of actually navigating life a little bit differently than looking at the outside world and feeling like you have to weigh yourself in it or compare or compete with it, and actually just start learning about who you are and how do I feel good and what do I have to let go of to I feel good all the time, and know more and actually know that I can feel good, and what the well-beingness means to me. You know, how do I take care of myself to where I feel good, what foods do well with me and what doesn't. And you know, it's not all about what everybody else says, but each person is so unique and different, and it's really all about you, and to learning to navigate through you and knowing that your point of view is important for you only, because somebody else might see it completely different.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling like you need to tell them how to be, you need to look again at yourself and to see why you're needing to tell them that, or why do you feel like you need to be superior than them. You know, it's kind of that again, is that imbalance in you, your need to feel superior coming from the outside, when what you need is to feel better and know and have your confidence and take care of yourself enough to it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. I want to feel good, and that's the most important thing to me.
Well,
so then,
sorry, I was going to ask you something on the food and stuff like that, because you know there's so with the soil the way it is, and we've got the chemtrails and all that, and you know, you and I talked again the other day also about when we're eating and stuff like that. So again, this really kind of goes back to what we are saying to ourselves, right? If I'm eating something that I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is really bad for me, this is going to be really bad for me.
yeah, the thoughts themselves actually create it to be worse than it would be,
Right.
if you were okay with what you're eating. So your thoughts count so much. Your body is listening to your thoughts tremendously. And there is this cellular memory. So when you have like a fear of an idea of something, when you have associated like junk food with poison, and then you eat it, that training that you've done with yourselves actually is going to support you and say, okay, this is poisonous. Let's send out some chemistry to amplify that, because that's what we believe about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be realizing that your body is paying attention, and your cells are conscious as well. And there are a couple of trillion cells in the body, all of them doing what they need to do without you having to tell them what to do. And that's why, because they are conscious, they are aware, and they are aware of the circuit of your body. And so they know what to do with certain organs. But as far as the brain circuitry, what you've convinced yourself to put your trust and faith in, And every single symbol of a word or an idea of something, you are training your body how to react to that idea, depending on how emotional or how important the issue is. The more emotional and insistent you are, the more your body is going to respond when it hears that same idea or food. So yeah, what you eat is depending on how, kind of follow. I shouldn't really criticize the food I'm eating, because then I'm actually making it toxic by my own thoughts. So
Exactly.
if I just know that, I'd be a little bit better off than to worry about whether it's organic enough. Because
I
you
was
could
just
eat
gonna
very organic food and it'd be quite toxic if you hate it.
Right, but even then we can say, okay, the food is organic, but really, is it, do you know what I mean? Because then you're thinking, okay, well, is it really organic, right? So what you're saying is that it's the same thing, it doesn't matter. So if we're looking at the food, this organic food, or just the, the regular food that we get, I don't know, I call it regular, but just the everyday food that we eat, if we're looking at, oh, that's better than the other, then it's the same things that we're putting out into the collective. It doesn't matter.
Putting that out into the collective and to your own body.
Yes.
And how you feel, because a lot of people don't realize that when they look at themselves, they don't consider themselves as healthy, because we've had a bombarding of, you're not healthy, do this, you need to exercise, and everybody's like, oh, I'm not doing all of that, so I must not be healthy. So that bombarding from the collective, being targeted at you, trying to convince you to buy their products or eat their foods, and all of this marketing has not been our best friend when it comes to us feeling good about who we are and how we feel. So be more conscious of feeling your well-beingness in your body. Kind of talk to the cells, in a sense, in your mind. It's not to get crazy and be weird about it, but
Yeah.
just kind of know that there is a communication going on inside of you, because it's not really by words, but it is by a frequency and an energy, the chemistry that's going on. But your thoughts actually create a chemistry. You only have to research the brain a little bit to realize everything is a chemical reaction or a vibration or energy. So that is the communication of the body. So, but your intent alone will get you where you need to be. So how you think about yourself really does matter more than you're aware of.
Yeah.
So get off your own back and be a lot nicer to yourself, and do that self-love, and just say, you know what, I'm just going to learn a little bit on what I need to do, and I got to stop, beating myself up so much about my life, and be okay with where I am, and say, okay, I want to feel better, so I'll make some little changes. Don't overwhelm yourself, but certainly don't criticize yourself either. It's to learn to put that in its proper perspective. A lot of what we know, these people have been trying to sell us stuff or frighten us. A lot of bills and laws are done by people terrifying us. Don't believe this, because they're all trying to kill you. And they exaggerate the facts. And so it's not as bad as people think it is, because there's been a lot of propaganda and a lot of convincing you to have a certain perspective. Now that's where the self-love comes in, is, no, I'm going to do my own research, so I'm not so vulnerable to somebody else's opinion, because I have trusted them way too much, and it's not working for me. We are not doing better. We're actually feeling sicker. We're getting heart problems, we're getting stressed, people are very, very stressed out. So their results aren't making you better. So what does work? And that's what people want to know, is, how do I take care of myself?
Exactly.
And it's to learn mostly this. I mean, when you start learning that your body is teaching you exactly what it needs and how to navigate the body, notice the red flags, and know that your thinking has a lot to do with your health. What you think about, how healthy you feel like you are, and be kind enough to yourself to start taking a few steps. You don't have to do everything all at one time, because that makes you not want to do it. You want to be extra kind and patient to yourself and say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of time to learn how to feel good. That's a priority to me. I want to feel better. And I can do this by quieting the mind, breathing more, being inspired to the next step, with learning a little bit about food, what I'm kind of, what my concerns about my health are. So I'll do a little bit of research on ways to support that, knowing that I will get the answer, and I'll try things out and it'll be okay. If you want to grow your own food, add the nutrients back in,
Yeah.
get unrefined salts, So there's some little tiny fixes that you can do that makes a huge difference in your life. And then when you start feeling better, you'll be motivated to the next step. So that's the evolution of it. But don't make yourself so overwhelmed that I have to change everything and it's going to be so hard to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like learn to have fun again. You know,
Yeah.
I got to stop listening to everybody and start listening to me. And
Yeah.
really a lot of changes come from that.
Yeah.
That one little shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And
So what you're really saying
yeah.
is it's going really back to the self-love and to recognize that there is a lot of the programming that's happening through the commercials, through the food, through media, and all of that that are programming us to divert us away from really the connection with ourselves. And so if we can recognize that when this stuff is happening, because we're asking for it, for one, and then we get to choose how we respond to that, or how we react or respond to that. And so, and what you're saying is it really goes back to how you feel about yourself, the self-love, how you're treating yourself, and really
getting off your own back. Mm-hmm. And really, I want to stay here because a lot of people have this perspective that there's this conspiracy that they're purposely putting GMOs in the food, or they're trying to make money, yes. However, we are the ones who listen to them for what we believe. So we have a choice in that. We don't have to accept what they say.
Right.
You know, so they're not doing it to us. We're the ones who handed over their ability to have more knowledge than us.
Right.
So we don't have to have everything, but, you know, don't just take one person's word for it. Or, you know, we can still grow our own food, or, you know, support local farmers that actually do put the nutrients back in there. Mm-hmm. So there's some different steps, and you have to be willing to shift a few things, but there's some real simple things that you can do to begin with. But instead of everybody so convinced that everything is out to get me, you know, there's all of these things, you know, that are forces that are trying to control us and to have power over us. It's no, we've let them have, we've handed it over to them and said, I believe what you say. Now I'm scared because I don't trust you anymore. Now what do I do?
Right.
It's really time for you to say, I can do this. There's so much information online right now. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, the answers are available. And, you know, having conversations like this where we share with each other how to do this, what's right and what's wrong, and what are my needs, asking questions. You know, I want to feel better. That's got to be the first one. And that fixes everything. I want to feel good. I want to feel self-love. I want to feel like I know what I can do. I don't want to feel a victim to somebody else. I don't like it when people make me question who I am or feel bad about it. Nobody does. And that's the thing, is we all share that. Yeah. Nobody wants to feel that way.
Right.
We've all just learned a lot of really bad habits and how to think and what to look at as valuable. And our perspectives haven't been on ourselves. I'm too busy minding everybody else's business. And we're not minding that. Because it's easier if I blame them than I have a reason to not feel good. So, but now it's time to no. I'm going to do this for myself because I want to feel good. And when you feel good, that's contagious. Other people want to feel good too.
Absolutely.
And that is that momentum. So, you know, for the world, let that go for now. Know that change is happening because that's how it works. You know, we're always moving in a direction. Nothing is going wrong. Stop looking at the reflection and know that and by doing this on your own, you start trusting that it is working, because your own life experience will show you that. It won't be coming from what we tell you. You know, we're not the experts of your life, you are. Yeah. And so we can only say, ooh, try this, give this a go. But we want you to learn for yourself what works for you. So
I love that.
We've been told enough about how to be to death, and that has made people worse because they're scared now. They don't know what choices to make. Yeah. So you do this for yourself. You feel good, and you build trust and faith in yourself, and that will never disappoint you.
Yeah. Well, and I love too what I just heard as well is like, and this really ties into everything that we're talking about, is the resistance. So whatever you resist persists. So stop resisting and just know that on some level, you are asking collectively and as well for yourself, because you're part of the whole. So just amazing. It's just amazing to me. So I just really appreciated having you on the show, and everybody that joined us and all the people that joined earlier, and we lost the connection with Zoom and had to, restart and stuff like that. So we really appreciate it. But Kelly, how can people get a hold of you if, because you're all about teaching people to heal and become whole within themselves. So is there a way they can get in touch with you?
Right now, at this point, I'm setting up a lot of other things. It's been unfolding even for me, but you can give them my email address, which is KELLYW0324@yahoo.com.
Okay.
And I have a lot of other sources, but that for now is the best way to get to me. So if anybody has any questions, it'll be fun to answer. We got to do this for each other, and it does require us to help and empower and uplift each other, and there is a lot of undoing, in a sense, on bad habits that we've bought into on how to think. And so, it's just very fun and exciting to be able to share that with others.
Yeah, and this is exciting times that we're in, and if we can really look at it that way, like you said, and I love that, it's like really seeing what we want to see out in the world, and really focusing on that, having your eye on the target as to that, as opposed to what we're really truly seeing, because there's that saying too, is nothing is that it appears to be, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening underneath that. So I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, and when you start and you make that intent on self-love, a lot of resistance will come up. So be ready for that. Sometimes it can be challenging, but it's worth it, journey, and it is an unfolding. And that's what both of us have, this desire to bring forward more tools. So if you have questions, feel free to leave them, and we'll talk about them, to whatever your concerns are, or navigational tools to get you through this so you can do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you learn that, it stops you from needing to control, and that works on everybody the same way. So it's all good.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
good.
Yes, absolutely. And if you have anybody that's listening either today or even afterwards, we will be on YouTube and other social media as well, the video from this. And so if you have any comments, or there's things that you would like for Kelly to, for us to address on the show, please, put them out there, and we'd love to hear from you, and how we can really just come together and shift the consciousness and shift it in a way, but really coming back to self-love, and how do we dive into that. So I think that might be, we continue on next week on Monday to really kind of dive more into that. I would like to have talked a little bit more about the self-love, because there's such a misconception that we think, I even thought it was like, oh yeah, I know what this is kind of about, which just to a majority of it I did, but there's still so much to learn, that because there's so much out there that we're privy to, right? But it's a matter of what resonates, what, it's like, again, when you go back to truth, what is really the truth of that, right? Is that true? And so there's this whole resonation that we're talking about. So,
and truth is kind of an unfolding anyway. So it depends on where you are right now in your life and what you're ready for, because you're not going to convince somebody to work on themselves if they're not ready for it. So it's never about telling somebody how they have to be. What do you want to experience in your life? And if you want to work on this, here, we're here for you. We can help you with that. And but not to say that somebody has to do it either, because contrast sometimes is necessary for them to make that choice. So everybody's always exactly where they need to be. And so there's nothing wrong. Everything is fixable the moment you change your mind. So it's all good. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in and joining us today, and everybody who'll be joining us afterwards. We thank you. Please don't forget to follow, subscribe, comment, and like. And if you do have a comment that you'd like to see, or hear us talk about something, please let us know that. And so we thank everybody, and tune in next week, same time, 10 o'clock Pacific Standard and 1 o'clock Eastern. So thanks again for everybody joining us. Thanks, Kelly, for really being on the show today. Really appreciated having you here and bringing your wisdom and your knowledge, and who you are and what you're doing in the world to helping people to heal, to become whole. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And we will see you soon.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.